Okay, in this tutorial I'm going to help you find out how to answer this particular exam question down here, which asks you to identify which of these two weather circles is the correct one for the city of Bordeaux. Now, I'm not going to give you any of your answer. I'm just going to give you some guidance that will help you make the decision, and then show you how you would give your 4 reasons that shows you that you've made the right decision. Why 4 reasons? Because this question is worth 4 marks. Okay, let's get started. Now, the first thing you've got to do is understand what these 2 weather symbols actually mean about the weather in an area, regardless of where it is. So to do that, you need to be able to interpret a synoptic weather symbol. So for that, you will either remember what you've done on this already, or you can look back in your weather topic notes to see what does this weather symbol actually mean. What does a fully coloured in circle with a small black dot with the arm coming out down here, or the limb as we call it, and the 2 little tick marks at the end of that. And then this here, this number. What does that actually mean? What would that mean for the weather in Bordeaux if that was indeed the correct weather symbol? So once you're able to interpret synoptic weather symbols, you then have to identify where Bordeaux is on the map. Well, here we can see it on the east coast of France. Okay. Now, to choose the correct one, is the weather for Bordeaux linked to this one or this one? You need to look at a number of factors. The first one is the isobar. It's 1032, that's the air pressure, and that means it's a certain type of air pressure. So if it's 1032, if it's far above 1000, is that high or low pressure? Once we know the type of air pressure, we can then start to think about the type of weather we might get. We can also see something about Bordeaux, that the isobars around it are quite far apart. As a matter of fact, Bordeaux lies right in the centre of this particular area. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit more evidence. We could work out the wind direction from knowing something about the way wind travels depending on air pressure. Now, if we just think about that for a second, we know that wind follows isobars, but is it going this way or is it going this way? And that depends on whether this is a high pressure or a low pressure area. So you should have made your mind up about that. Okay, now if it's high pressure, the wind would be going clockwise. If it's low pressure, the wind would be going anti-clockwise. If it's in the middle of high pressure, we wouldn't expect any wind. If it was in the middle of low pressure, we'd expect lots of wind. All right, let's have a little think about temperature. How can we figure something about the temperature? Well, we therefore need to know a little bit about what this area is compared to this area on a weather map. Okay? And when I talk about this area, I'm talking about an area between this symbol here, this weather front, and this weather front. Okay? And that would influence the temperature to a large extent. Also, it is March, 30th of March, so it's, I suppose in France that would be early spring. Final thing is rain. Is it raining in Bordeaux or not? Well, for rain, you need to remember something about weather fronts. Okay, we have some weather fronts on this map. We know that weather fronts would cause rain. The key question is where is Bordeaux in relation to those weather fronts? If it is near a weather front or under a weather front, there will be rain. It might be steady rain if it's a warm front. It might be heavy rain if it's a cold front. If it's nowhere near weather fronts, then it's unlikely to be any rain whatsoever. Right, so I've given you a full description of the decisions you have to take. You've got to think about high or low pressure. You've got to think about isobars. You've got to think about the temperature, depending on the time of year and whether it is in a warm or a cold sector of air. You've got to think about whether there are weather fronts nearby or not, which would influence the actual rain. One thing, by the way, you need to say is if something is not happening, so for example, if you pick this one, if you think that is Bordeaux, then do please talk about the wind. Even though this one would suggest there is no wind, you need to tell me why there would be no wind direction, and you need to tell me why there would be no wind speed. If there is no weather symbol, we can see no weather symbol down here, unlike here we can see one, you need to tell me why there isn't one. Okay, so when there's something not on your weather symbol, you've got to tell me why it isn't, and that would count as one of your reasons. Of course, if you go for this one, then you're going to be telling me all of the things that you can see on that weather symbol. Okay, so this concludes the tutorial that will help you answer this question. You get further guidance if you read the text here, which will help you answer it. And as long as you've done the tasks in previous weeks, you should find this quite easy.